Grinnell is a beautiful, vibrant community full of faces of all types, people who have impacts of different varieties, and today, the man that we're going to be interviewing has impacted our children all the way from people who are 50 years old to young kids today. Doug Cameron, who used to be the principal here at Davis Elementary, and he still volunteers here today. He has several other impacts, and I'm looking forward to getting to know him just a little bit better, and I hope you are too. So let's get to know him on Faces of Grinnell.
Well, I might as well say I am, but I'm not.
Okay.
I grew up in Denver, Colorado.
Okay.
And the reason I ended up in Grinnell was I went to Cornell College, and frankly, I had a job in Leadville, Colorado, all lined up, and decided that I couldn't take my new bride to Leadville, which was at that time way up in the mountains. It still is up in the mountains, but it was snowed in basically several months of the year. And so she discovered that there was a job opening in Grinnell. So I came to Grinnell.
So what did you go to school for?
Well, I was a sociology major at Cornell.
Okay.
And it was 1970, and I thought, uh-oh, what am I going to do now? So I went back. I had taught swimming lessons, and I decided, yeah, I could do that. I like that. So I decided I'd become a teacher, and I went back to Colorado College and got an MAT. And
okay. So when you went to, when you ended up in Grinnell, what were your first thoughts about the community? Like, what did you think of when you saw Grinnell?
Well, the interesting thing is I had gone to school in Mount Vernon at Cornell, which is smaller than Grinnell. But I had, my first thought was that, I threw a temper fit at the corner of 8th and Broad when we were looking at colleges when I was in high school. I thought, I came back to where I threw this temper fit. But seriously, my wife and I only decided to stay. We were only going to stay for 3 years because she was from Minneapolis, I was from Denver. We decided, we need a bigger community. But we liked it. We enjoyed it here.
Yeah, I was going to say, is there anything specific or like a moment that you remember that at least changed for you? Like that you were like, you know what, this is where I want to stay?
I think it was the people. They were friendly. And at first I thought there isn't enough to do. But there really is. You just have to take advantage of what's here, And so.
Did you have anything that you specifically really like to do that you caught? Like you said, you have to take advantage. You have to find the things. What specifically did you find that you liked?
At that time, we did go to a lot of events over at the college, and that's what I like to do. I like the college atmosphere, and I enjoyed the kids I was teaching. So there really wasn't anything that particularly sold me on it other than just the general atmosphere of Grinnell.
Okay.
As Tom Latimer says, he got Grinnelled. I guess I did too.
So where did you first start teaching?
Bailey Park.
Bailey. Okay.
Jerry Hagan hired me, and that's a whole nother experience, that interview. I'm amazed I got the job because Kyle Jones was the superintendent at that time, and he said he wasn't too interested in my teaching necessarily, but he had two basic questions. Do you drink, do you smoke, and where do you go to church? And afterwards, and I say this lovingly because Jerry won't mind, after the interview, he took me around and said, I'll give you a little tour of the community. So we did, and we ended up at the country club. And he said, what would you like to drink? And I thought it was a big test. Now, if you know Jerry today, not that he drinks a lot, but it was not a test. It was just being friendly, And so
you're just being social.
So that was the interview. And then he invited me to his house for dinner, which I thought was above and beyond. So
nice. So what did you teach to start with?
I taught math.
Thank you.
Is this long?
And science to sixth graders at Bailey Park. And,
okay.
And the interesting comment was, I was honest. I said, well, you've seen my transcripts. I'm not a math student. And Jerry Hagan's comment was, well, you can keep ahead of sixth graders, can't you? So that was it. So.
All right. Elementary.
Well, I went to Newburgh when the sixth grade was moved out there. All the sixth graders went there for a while. And then we moved to the middle school and after Newburgh closed. And I really didn't like the middle school atmosphere. Nothing against people who teach there, because they more power to them. But I like the elementary school atmosphere, so I had gone to school in the meantime at the University of Iowa and gotten a master in school administration. And so I transferred to third grade at Davis at the suggestion of Marcia Bachman, and went down there. And when Red Rickson retired, I became the principal. So.
Okay. So, what about becoming principal appealed to you, or
I just thought, number one, I have a rule that somebody needs to follow that I didn't. Don't ever become the principal in the building where you've taught, because your friends are all of a sudden your employees, and that was kind of a hard transition sometimes, but not totally. It was a great step. What appealed to me is I just thought I could do more to make change, and I'm not sure I was successful, but change in education, and frankly there was a little more money involved, but that was secondary on the list. So.
Okay. So, what have you? So you worked. How many years were you the principal?
I knew you were going to ask that question, and I think it was about 26 years.
26 years.
Yeah.
Was that the longest? Which did you do longer, teaching or principal work?
It was probably about the same, actually.
About the same. So you had about 26 years of teaching.
I know probably a little longer principal, because I taught for 46 years. So.
Oh, okay. So, being the principal, did you ever have to take the mantle of teaching again?
Yeah, sometimes. Toward the end, especially, it was harder to find substitute teachers. So sometimes I'd have to fill in the classroom. Sometimes, that wasn't a bad gig, So.
Is there something that you liked about? Was there an advantage of being principal over being a teacher? Something that you enjoyed more? Something that you enjoyed less?
Well, what I enjoyed less was and as time went on, the paperwork involved in being a principal, the accountability, which is a good thing, but the paperwork that went along with that, I didn't like, and people who know me know that I hate paperwork. So that was a problem. What I enjoyed the best was just getting to know all the kids rather than just the kids in my classroom. So.
Okay.
Well, unfortunately, actually three of the defining moments were deaths of students that actually went to Davis School at the time. There was a preschool student, a fourth grade student, and two fourth grade students, and that was very difficult. The big defining moment, and people would argue whether this is good or bad today, but when we moved all the third and fourth graders to Davis, I think it helped. In some regards, it created another transition for students, which is not a good thing. But it also helped break down some stereotypes in Grinnell. You grew up here, that maybe there still is, but it's lessened the stereotype between the north side and the south side. I mean, I'm going to be honest about that,
Yeah, I think I remember something about that because I actually went to Bailey Park. What's interesting is I went to Bailey Park and then the kid across the street from me went to Fairview. So
Yeah, I bet they did.
It was an interesting divide
And we
there.
used to watch those divides real closely. I mean,
Yeah.
and the other thing that was, I didn't initiate this, Clem Bodensteiner did, but it was a huge thing. Some people would view it as a small thing, but if you were a rural kid, until about, well, when Clem changed it, we used the rural kids to balance out the enrollments in the schools. So, for example, some of those students, they went to Bailey one year, Fairview another year, Davis another year. It didn't matter. We just shuffled them around. And that's not good. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
So, can you talk about that process a little bit? That was my year. I was in the group of, I went from third grade over at Bailey to fourth grade over at Davis. Like, can you tell me the story? Like, how did that process start? How, what was it like going through that a little
well,
bit?
it started, it was in some regards, it was a grueling experience. It started because we had the idea we were going to reorganize. The original plan was going to have a preschool, kindergarten building, a first and second grade building, and a third and fourth grade building. And there was a lot of community outcry about that. And I think rightfully a little bit, because it would have made even more transitions. So we decided to just go with 2 buildings for first and second and kindergarten, and then 1 at third and fourth. And the process was, well, we closed Davis for remodeling, and so the year after we remodeled, we just initiated the transition, and there were a lot of community meetings about that. So, and you asked about a defining moment. That year we were out at the high school. We sent our third and fourth graders out there to the portable buildings at the high school, and everybody thought that the high school, it was just going to be terrible. The kids would be picked on by high school students. Dave Stokes, who was principal at the high school at the time, said they treated the third and fourth graders better than they treat their peers. So
Nice.
the biggest advice I have is don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't be afraid to I guess discipline is probably a too strong a word, but you can't be their friend.
Yeah.
You have to be friendly.
Are you talking about students or teachers or both? Like if you're the principal?
No, I'm talking about students when you're teaching.
Yeah.
Don't try to be their friend. Be friendly, be nice, but you're the person in charge.
Okay.
And the kids aren't, and so don't fall into that trap, And I hate that maxim that you hear sometimes about don't smile until October. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Smile, be nice, but just be firm,
Okay.
And as the principal, I have a funny story about when I first took over as the principal. As I said, I took over in the building where I used to teach, and all of a sudden these people became the employees. And so I was going over on day one the rules, certain rules. And one of the rules was don't make more than 10 copies on the copy machine. If you have more than 10, send them downtown and have them run off down there. Well, I went through that rule, and I got openly laughed at. In a nice way, but openly laughed at. Because as a teacher, I'd been the biggest breaker of that rule that there was. And I just looked at him and I thought, okay, what do I say? I said, well, some you're going to win, some you're going to lose. And
Nice. Okay. Here in Grinnell.
it was wonderful. I mean, I will say, my kids, well, one still lives here, but my kids have fond memories of Grinnell. And I think being in Grinnell made it easier. There were a lot of choices for things to do in school, and nobody said if you were an athlete you had to do this or whatever. And we adopted our 10-year-old. She was then 10, now she's 26, and because it's just a good place to raise kids. I mean, it just truly is. And the girl we adopted stayed, and now has a business in Grinnell, and she's enjoyed it. So
Nice. Do you want to do a plug for the business? Do you want to?
oh, I'll do a plug for the business.
Yeah. Let's do a plug for the business.
It's Kim's Laundromat. She grooms dogs down in the building next to Polly Ice Pizza.
Laundromat.
Yeah.
It's not laundromat. It's laundromat.
It's a dog grooming business, and she does a wonderful job. She really does.
Okay.
That was her training after high school. She went to Michigan and got trained in how to groom dogs, and people say that she does a terrific job. So
That's good. Okay. Well, if anybody needs dog grooming,
there you go.
Kim's Laundromat.
Kim's Laundromat.
You said by Polly Ice?
Yeah, there's a little mall in there. Dennis McKelvey has a law office in there, and there's some other buildings. Used to be a hair salon. And it's just across the alley as you're going west from Polly Ice. So,
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah.
Mostly.
I would give some advice to people who are thinking about retirement is you need to learn how to say no. I didn't learn that. So I've been doing a lot of things, not full time, but I've been on the school board actually 3 times, but one full term, and I filled a term for a lady that moved out of town, and I filled another term for a lady that moved, because you can only, if you move out of your
Out of your district,
you can't be on the school board anymore. So I filled in for her, and I one of the most rewarding things. It's kind of challenging sometimes, but I've been on the foster care review board, where we take children who are in foster care, and we're appointed by a judge to make recommendations, not decisions, but just recommendations as to the disposition for those kids. What are they going to do? Are they going to stay in foster care? Are they going to go home? They're going to do that, and we meet once a month for that. I've been a CASA worker, which is a court-appointed special advocate for kids in foster care. You're assigned a family or a child that's in foster care, and you act as their kind of their advocate, give a report back to a judge. So I've done that. I've been on the school foundation to help raise money for the schools, and I've tried very hard to pass bond issues, which haven't passed.
Okay.
And I'll put a little plug in. September 11th is the next bond issue. So
Okay. So let's talk about that a little bit, because that is something pretty big. It's for the school. Like you wanted to work on.
Right across the street from West Side, where we are now. That's where we want to put an elementary school.
Okay.
And people have the mistaken impression that we want to tear down the other buildings. That's not necessarily the case. For example, Davis, we just celebrated 100 years of Davis School. It's a wonderful building, and I love Davis. I taught there for years, but it's not conducive to what we would call quality education today in terms of space. Good teachers, but we need to do more with the space. So we hope that somebody will, if the bond issue passes, will develop that building into something else. So
Yeah, the last time that was updated, like you mentioned, that was almost 20 years ago, probably.
it was, and the building itself was built in 1918.
Yeah.
And,
Well, yeah, my grandma went there, so it's been a long time.
And not to criticize it, it served its purpose though. Grinnell, while it's a wonderful place, it isn't big enough to support five school buildings anymore. We could put every child into one building, elementary wise, K-6, and have a much more efficient operation that would lead to more money to be spent for education rather than infrastructure things. You know?
Okay, so that's a big benefit and
Right.
big plus is to be able to actually like give kids, like be able to focus the money more on the kids rather than on the space they're in.
And in this day and age, unfortunately, our buildings are, while we have locks on the doors and so forth, they're still not very secure. Once you gain entrance to any building in Grinnell, basically you can walk anywhere. I mean, you know, and
So your goal would be to improve the like the safety as well.
yeah, improve the safety, definitely improve the educational space. Not necessarily to cut teachers, because we're going to need the teachers. But,
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I mean, that's something like,
yeah.
as someone who hasn't educated myself well enough on the topic,
Oh,
it's great to hear.
Here you go. Our superintendent, Janet Stutz, leads wonderful community meetings. So
Okay.
be on the lookout for a community meeting about education. You know,
Okay.
So,
Are you thinking like she'll do that more often, or is she going to have
well,
one
she did
specific
last
meeting?
time. It's not one specific. It's
Okay.
kind of little neighborhood meetings and maybe some at the library and things like
Okay.
that. We're still trying to gear up for the September 11th election. So,
That's okay. That's a good.
so
That's a good thing. Yeah.
yeah. And yes, what else I've been doing? I spend a fair amount of time just reading and watching TV, much to the disgust of my wife. But well, for years I volunteered in L.A. Arsenal's third grade class, which was just a nice experience, you know, and I helped her grade papers. I helped with some of the kids sometimes, you know, and things like that. Since she retired, I've been helping Mrs. Elliott a little bit and just kind of mostly hang out and bug Jean. But I also, for 3 years, I was an AmeriCorps service provider. I helped. It was a small pay through AmeriCorps, but I helped schools with school attendance, getting the chronic absentees to school.
Okay.
And
So what about Rotary? Like I know you're a Rotary member once a week. What does Rotary do? What is your guys'
well,
purpose?
number one, it's just a great camaraderie. But our main purpose, we do a lot for the community in terms of scholarships at graduation time. We run that chicken barbecue. We, through Schultz and Company, Frank Schultz has his variety show every 2 years. We've given lots of money over the years to the schools and to the hospital. And then we have various grants that people have written. You can write to the Rotary Foundation. If you raise a certain amount, we get matching money from the Rotary Foundation to match projects in the community. So,
Okay.
for example, the Arns Park playground project, we just gave $5,000 to that.
Oh, nice. Okay. So the chicken barbecue is coming up.
Yeah, June 7th, I believe it
June
is.
7th. Okay.
I think that's the date, and I've got tickets, and so does every other Rotarian.
Yeah.
So
Somehow I always land tickets every year. I don't know how.
I'll give you
through
some.
my wife or through my. I don't know how, but she always scores tickets, and it's always always really good chicken.
It's good chicken, and we used to run it right outside where the Hotel Grinnell is now. Of course, we can't do that anymore. So we moved over to the Methodist Church, and you'll find our big barbecue grill set that Alan Latcham actually built to grill all that chicken, and we do it at the Methodist Church outside. So and the smell permeates the entire community. So. That's a hard question.
I know, it's such a difficult question.
But I hope they remember fondly their days at Bailey Park and Newburgh and Davis when I taught them how to live responsibly. And one of the biggest joys for me is to see what my former students are doing now. I mean, and I've connected with a lot of them. People criticize Facebook, but I enjoy Facebook because it's a good way to connect with former friends and students. I mean, and I enjoy seeing what they're doing. I don't always respond, and sometimes I throw a little political thing out there that maybe I shouldn't, that irritates some of them. But for the most part, I enjoy just keeping up with them and seeing what they're doing. I hope since being involved with Big Brother, Big Sister, which I failed to mention in retirement, I hope they remember, at least the ones I've worked with through that, will remember that fondly. I mean, I've had 2 little brothers over the years. One is still current. The other one moved away and is graduating this year, I understand. So
that's cool.
I just love the people. I mean, I really do, and I love being here. I love being a West Side family dining because I come out here and I see people all the time that I know, and in other restaurants too. But and I just enjoy the community so much, And when I go somewhere on a trip, I like to come back to Grinnell. I mean, it's just a nice community, So
talking about everyone
wouldn't trade it for anything,
Okay.
So.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed Doug's story as much as I did. Don't forget to keep an eye out for those public meetings about the school referendums. That way you can express your concerns and ask questions if you'd like. Hit us up on Facebook and Twitter for more details. Kind of follow along for more stories coming out on who we're going to be interviewing and what's going to be next. Also, if you hit us up on patreon.com/Faces of Grinnell, donate any money at all, you'll be first to see the vlogs a week ahead of time, and you'll also be the first, if you donate $5, you'll be the first in line to be able to see the interviews. You'll be able to see them 3 days ahead of everyone else. That's part of the early bird tier at patreon.com/Faces of Grinnell. Please like and share all of this content. The more you guys do that, the more we grow. Up next, we're going to be interviewing William Crosby. Some of you guys might know him as that guy sitting on the park bench, or that guy in the library, or that guy at the coffee shop. Crosby's everywhere. His interview is fantastic, and it's going to look gorgeous. As you can see, Doug's interview was a little bit rough, but that was because it was my first interview. I just want to make every interview look better and better as they come along. So I appreciate your guys' patience, and I thank you so much for all the support you guys have been showing. Please, please, please hit subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. That helps us out a lot. Share this out with your friends and family. And a huge thank you to Westside Family Restaurant for letting us film there. West side, if you head west towards Newton on 6th, they're going to be on your right. West side is a place where families meet. They got killer barbecue. We've had people from the south tell us it's better. We also got hand-cut steaks, amazing homemade Laura's pies, and we've got all sorts of delicious family-style food. So check them out, guys. They're really gracious to let us be able to film there. And I'll see you next time.